Today, we're going to take a look at some of the ways that the law is prohibiting you from prepping. Don't go out there thinking you're going to generate your own power and then be surprised when the government shuts you down. What did you think they were going to let you do? Make power, grow your own food, or heaven forbid, catch rainwater for future storage? Yes, friends, they're trying to control the water that's quite literally raining from the sky for free. But do not fear, it's not all doom and gloom. Where there's a law, there will always be a loophole. And we're here to tell you what they are. So strap in, and let's have a look at the things that you're doing that could potentially land you in jail. Let's get into it. Booby traps. Let's start with the obvious ones first and then move on to the more infuriating pitfalls that the government is placing right in front of you. Preparing for a home invasion is probably at the top of most of our lists. Don't get us wrong, if you have a licensed weapon and you end up using it to dispatch of an intruder that's already inside your home, you're protected by self-defense laws. We're not talking about those here. We're referring to booby traps. Any trap that falls under lethal force or can cause serious bodily harm is illegal. Let's put it this way, if you set up an axe to swing down when the door is open, that's a lethal booby trap. But if it's a bucket with some disgusting or stinky sour milk, well, that's just gross, but not worthy of assault, lethal force, or any other legal red tape. A pothole in the garden can break a guy's ankle, but fill it with rusted nails and barbed wire. Now it's suddenly become a weapon. So avoid items that have sharp edges and blades. Use thorny plants instead. Also, be careful of electrical traps. It's not that they can't be used, but the charge can't be enough to unalive someone by making their heart stop dead. And for the love of all that is good, don't set up a trigger mechanism that can make a firearm go off. We know our fans aren't that stupid, but liability, folks. Then there's the issue of explosives. Building anything that can make even just a flame is illegal. So it should go without saying that accelerants, bombs, and the like are illegal too. And that includes making an explosive stand for target practice at the range. Your intention might have been completely harmless, but it could still equate to a charge of terrorism. We're not joking here. Kids have been hauled to court for making chlorine bombs in the backyard and charged with crimes meant for grown men with much more sinister intentions. Keep your booby traps as uncomfortable and painful as possible without making use of a weapon or explosive. Water harvesting. Since we're in the home, let's discuss one of the first of those infuriating laws we mentioned. Water harvesting. We can't believe that we're even saying this, but saving rainwater is illegal in some states or it's heavily restricted. We won't be getting into why the government is trying to take ownership of the Earth's most valuable natural resource, but you still need to check your state's laws to find out how much you can do. Homesteads and farms usually don't have to adhere to these restrictions, and homes might just have limitations. It all depends on the state you're in. No matter where you are or how you do it, you'll probably need a permit to store water. And if your state prohibits all kinds of water harvesting, you'll need to get your hands on filters to clean water that serve you on the go. Buying tanks for rain storage isn't illegal. It's actually just collecting the rain that's illegal. No one can tax you on an empty drum. And if the grid were to shut down, well, then you'd have every legal right to secure water for your survival. It's life and death during that scenario after all. And as a little extra note here, for those living in housing communities that are run by a homeowners association, check those laws too. The HOA are usually run by a collection of Karens and old farts that have nothing better to do than spend their days driving around looking for ways to cite you for putting up something as harmless as a washing line. Don't let them fine you to kingdom come for something that could have been avoided. Hunting. Here in the US, hunting laws are actually very lax when compared to other countries. In most places, certain animals can only be hunted at specific times of the year, and it's not like you can go out your back door and hunt what's there. A lot of the time, areas are set aside for this kind of thing, and you mustn't forget about hunting licenses and the amount of meat you bring back. Again, the US is pretty lenient when it comes to hunting, but almost everywhere else in the world, you're limited on the amount you're allowed to bring back. This holds true for hunting big game, small game, fishing, and trapping. If it involves bringing any kind of meat home that you got from out in the wild, you can be sure that there's legal red tape around it. This also includes the amount of ammunition you can have on your person. You can get away with a little more if you apply for special hunting licenses in some cases, but in reality, most countries around the world have limitations on how much you can have on you at a time. Get clued up on your state's laws so you don't get slapped with a fine that could potentially ruin you financially. Here, we'd advise you that you keep the ammunition on you that you legally can, but also to get clued up on muzzle loaders and how to make your own powder to keep them operational or without the grid. After all, most collectibles don't require licenses, and owning and knowing how to use one can't hurt now, can it? We actually got a few videos on those topics, so we'll leave those 2 links below in the description. And now, you must know what time it is. Yep, we've come to that part of the video where we need to remind you all to subscribe, share, leave a like, and to comment down below. Every single suggestion from our viewers, within reason, is put on the docket for future videos. Any criticisms are taken to heart, and every form of engagement is greatly appreciated. So, if we're doing all that for you, is it really too much to ask that you subscribe to the channel? Come on, guys, we see you coming back week after week. Why not just take the plunge and subscribe already? It keeps you in the loop, and it keeps our little operation here afloat. Alright, let's get back to business. Stockpiling. We hate that we have to mention some of the following, no matter how ridiculous we think some of these restrictions are, but sometimes the red tape is just designed to get you. Stockpiling. Yep, stockpiling food, medication, or even diapers can land you in hot water. You just need to know when to build up your supplies. We saw this a lot during the pandemic. You can't go out in the middle of a disaster of any kind and buy as much as you want of anything. There will be limitations, so don't wait until there are restrictions or you're in the middle of a war or a flood blocks you off. Do it now, before the storm comes, not while it's in full swing. Medication is another one of those tricky items. We're not referring to cough medicine or aspirin. No, the prescription stuff is where the limitations lie. Now, legally speaking, you can't have more than a month's worth of any serious heart, diabetic, or pain medication in your possession. In certain circumstances, a doctor will give you a waiver for those who live in places that are far removed from towns and cities, or for those who are going on a holiday, that sort of thing. But us regular folks don't have that kind of exemption. So for the guys who have chronic conditions, make sure that you have a month's worth of medication and that you've done your reading up on how to treat conditions when you have absolutely nothing on you and there's no help coming. Bringing down blood sugar or high blood pressure is doable naturally and can buy you a few days. Certain foods and exercises, maybe a medicinal herb or two in the backyard. None of them will cure you, and you will still need to get your hands on the proper medications eventually, but they'll buy you enough time to get some help when it matters. Land and property. And lastly, just because you own land, even if you have no debt on it, doesn't mean that it can't be taken away from you. You heard that right. You thought not being able to collect the water that falls from the sky was bad. The same holds true for the land that you paid for. Depending on the state, it can be illegal to generate power outside of grid power and solar. You can get evicted if you're not connected to the city's sewer system. Are you raising your own livestock and growing food? Well, good luck selling it. Most places don't allow the sale of raw milk or eggs still warm from the chicken's butt. As we saw recently with the Amish farmer who had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of produce seized that he and his family had been selling for multiple generations, the government's doing everything it can to take away your ability to be self-sufficient. To put it simply, of the 130 laws set up to regulate and control the sale of homegrown produce, almost every single one of those laws are designed to rack up so many fines and taxings that the sheer amount of them can equate to your land being seized. So what does this tell you? Maybe that the rich men north of Richmond are trying to control the basic necessities of human survival, making the population utterly and completely reliant on a grid that's constantly on the brink of collapse. The laws are so tight that most people decide to fall in line instead of combating it outright. But the laws aren't completely making it impossible to prepare for the inevitable. You just need to study them and be smarter than the bastards trying to choke you out. There are people out there who are completely self-sufficient and they're managing to create a source of income from their land, simply because they made it their life's mission to go find ways to get around the legal red tape and to do so without ruffling any authoritarian feathers. Don't let the big guys win. They've been trying for the better part of the century to squeeze us into cities and make us forget how to accomplish even the most basic of human survival techniques: food, land, sanitation, and energy. The majority of the population can't do any of those things anymore. So don't let that be you. Know the laws, know the pitfalls, and most importantly of all, never give up trying to find ways to get the job done. If there's one thing that humanity can count on, it's our nature to find ingenious solutions to stick it to the man who's trying to make us march to their restrictive drum. Don't allow the system to keep you from preparing for the worst, and don't allow them to stuff you behind bars where you'll be a sitting duck. Do it smart, do it legal, and tune in next time. As always, this is Threat to Survival. Prepare today, thrive tomorrow. Embrace the threat to survival.